Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. It looks like most of us are on the call. So this is our How Can I Improve My Hiring webinar that's really based off our recruiting metrics report. A lot of great key insights. So I'm excited to go through that with you. If you haven't been on a training with me before, my name is Natalie Morgan. I'm the Senior Director of People at CareerPlug. So I am very involved in our own hiring and using our software. And I work really closely with our marketing and education teams to, provide resources like this data I'm going to go through with you today to really get to the heart of it. What is going on in the labor market? What do job seekers care about? What are those trends really showing us? And most importantly, what can we do about it, right? As people who are involved in hiring on the ground day to day, growing our businesses. So here's my very high level agenda today. So we are talking about our recruiting metrics report. This is our third annual report CareerPlug has done, where we analyze hiring data to try to shed light on hiring metrics and trends for small businesses across various industries. So we looked at all the hire activity from last year, so more than 14,000 employers, over 5 million applicants, to really aggregate this data and get some good trends there. So we're going to talk about what's in the data. I'm going to do that first, and then we'll end on what can we do about it and talk about those key takeaways. As a housekeeping note, I am recording this session, so we will provide the recording and deck afterwards. And most importantly, we'll provide that report. If you haven't seen this yet, we'll make sure everyone here gets a link from it. I have my colleague Nolan on the back end. So if you want to use the Q&A, ask any questions, feel free. We'll see how we do on time here, and I'll see if I can get to any questions at the end as well. So let's dive in. And to do that, we have to kind of ground us in what 2021 was like as a year. So this is where most of this data is coming from. And it's pretty impossible to view 2021 as a, quote unquote, normal year for employment, right? Widespread COVID vaccinations were available starting in the first quarter. That helped push employers to ramp up their hiring in order to meet the demands of the public who was more eager to return to normal. But employers in a lot of industries faced something kind of unexpected, right? You probably ran into this too, which is, that once reliable applicant pool had really shrunk. So we saw, in 2021, the labor market facing massive readjustments, largely driven by job seeker sentiment. People were talking about the Great Resignation, right? Jobs that were once more easily filled, maybe in the service sector or restaurants, retail, hospitality, faced a candidate population that, for a variety of reasons, was more reluctant to return to work. You also had more work from home roles popping up in other industries at the same time, causing a lot of people to switch jobs there. So just wanted to ground us a little bit in a narrative that kind of is throughout this data. If you look at our own CareerPlug data, we found that the number of new jobs just posted using CareerPlug in 2021 increased. It increased 49% over the previous year. However, the number of people applying to jobs actually decreased by 30%. So if you're going to translate that, that means 2021 saw fewer job seekers applying for more roles. So by any measure, right, it's a candidates market. We're certainly seeing that continue into 2022 in a lot of areas. So with that, let me dig in some of the big questions we tried to answer in this report. So following questions: how many job views convert to applicants? How many applicants convert to hires? What are the best times of year to post jobs? And I think the most interesting, where are the best places to post your jobs? So let's start with this first one. How many job views convert to applicants? So this view to applicant conversion just means how many people are looking at your job posting and then actually applying to it. So maybe they're looking at it on your careers page or on a job board like Indeed. They've clicked on the job title, they're looking at your description and actually converting into an application. So I actually have this broken down by some industries here, so you can see your rate if you take it at a glance. But we saw rates of job view to applicant conversion down across all industries from the previous year. So in 2020, the average was more around 7%. 2021, that dropped to 3%. So that's just one more indicator that while job seekers are seeing more job postings out there, they're applying to fewer. In the past, I've actually advised, if you're looking at your specific account, what's going on for your business for conversion, I say, try to get that to 10%. 10% of people landing on your job should actually be converting into applications. So compare that to the 3% average, you can really see what that impact has been. So someone asked here, are these 2021 or 2022 numbers? These are 2021. So it's taking the whole year there. And we will always report on 2021 kind of in the first part of the new year. So we'll look at 2022 as a big chunk for next year too. But I will say a lot of these trends, it hasn't significantly changed from, when the year closed to kind of going into 2022 here. So on an individual level, even though you're seeing this as a benchmark across your industry, one takeaway is we always want to rise above the average in our industry, right? So I would still look at it and try to get to that 10% conversion rate for your job postings. Now, the next thing, how many applicants actually convert to hires, right? A lot of people want to know, how many people do I actually need to make that one hire? It's a tricky question, and these two variables really come into play here. So the applicant to interview conversion rate, which is how many applications actually are turning into interview invitations, right? So they're applying. Are you inviting them to an interview or not? And then that interview to hire conversion rate. So how many of those interviews are actually turning into hires? So different metrics as you look at your hiring pipeline. So back in 2020, right, go a couple of years back, we saw the average applicant to interview conversion was about 15%, but it actually rose in our data for 2021. So that rose to 20%. Again, I'll show you kind of a breakdown of this here so you can look at what it was for your industry, but the average across the board, 20% here, applicant to interview conversion. And then one more step down the funnel, interview to hire. So you're interviewing them, how many of those interviews are converting to hire? Similarly, it saw a small rise. It rose from an average of 9% to 11%. So let me try to put that in context, right? This makes sense from what we've been saying. Fewer applicants applying to jobs. Employers are sending interview invitations to a larger portion of the candidates that do actually apply. And I really think it's worth noting that while 2021 saw that dramatic decrease in applicant flow, right? I said down 30%. We all felt that. I certainly felt that over the last year too. Those decreases were not felt dramatically downstream in the hiring funnel. So they were really felt up top. When we look at, converting to interviews, converting to actual hires, the averages really only saw modest changes there. And I find that super encouraging because what this suggests is that you don't necessarily need more applicants at the top of the funnel to make hires. You just need to convert applicants to interviews and interviews to hires at slightly higher rates in order to hire as effectively as you have done in the past. And we'll kind of get into some of those key takeaways and actions to take next, but I found that really encouraging in the data. Now, the next big question we asked is, what are the best times of year to post jobs? We always look at that. And we saw January was the best month last year, by a significant margin. We typically see that for January year over year. Our 2022 data will likely show us the same thing. But last year, 40% more applications per job than the yearly average. And the worst month in last year was actually April. So a full year ago, now than the month we are in, about 22% lower than the yearly average. And that is really unique, I think, back to 2021 was an odd year, a typical year. The holiday season months, November and December, are usually the worst months to hire. But April's dip last year, it kind of coincides with the steep increase we saw in new jobs. Businesses are really ramping up their hiring at this time last year. A lot of new jobs posted, but that applicant flow didn't keep up with the demand. So candidates, the candidates market really started to be talked about a year ago in spring, and that competition became quite fierce. Now, last question, and like I said, most interesting to me are what are the best places to post your jobs? So let's talk about applicant hire rates. So this shows that 1% for job boards. That means 1% of applicants who are applying from job boards. Think about those major places like Indeed, ZipRecruiter, LinkedIn, 1% of applicants coming in from those sources were actually hired. So job boards produce, by far the most quantity, like 72% of all applications in our study. Again, 14,000 employers, 5 million applicants, 72% of those coming from job boards, but they produce less than half of the actual hires in our analysis. So that can be, for a variety of reasons. I'll talk about that a little bit more, but tend to see a little lower quality than, using, generating applicants by other means, right? Like your careers page, for example. So you see that conversion rate actually goes up. So 5% of applicants who are applying directly from your careers page were actually hired, making them 4 times more likely to be hired than someone from a job board. Now, here are kind of, the money makers, the referrals and custom sources, very attractive conversion rates here. So 22% about across both of these sources, 22% of referrals and people coming in from custom sources were actually hired. Custom sources might be, an industry specific job board, a local niche job board, sometimes your social media. I'm going to talk a little bit more about those as we get into our takeaways and next steps, because they're can be a really meaningful source for your business if you're not utilizing them already, right? This is 17, 18 times more likely to be hired than someone coming in from a job board. So job boards, the quantity is there for sure, not always the quality. And I don't want to, you don't want you to get me wrong. Like job boards are a really important piece of our recruiting strategy. Right? 72% of your applicants are most likely coming in through job boards like Indeed and ZipRecruiter. So taking out that piece of the pie is gonna most likely negatively impact your recruiting. But it means we should also be looking at other sources to kind of round out that picture for us. Like I said, people who apply from job boards, you're more likely to get people who are maybe applying for dozens of jobs in short order. Maybe they're taking less time to consider their individual qualifications, their fit, their interest in your company, where by comparison, an applicant who takes the time to research your role, really apply directly through your careers page or learning about it through one of your employees, having that referral, they might be more likely to be excited about the position and be a good match overall. So we really want to utilize multiple sources, right, in our recruiting. So that was some of the high level findings from the report. Like I said, I'm going to send this out. The nice thing when you actually look at the download of the report is you can view all of this data broken down by your industry. So I'm kind of giving you the high level. You saw some of the graphs and how it's showing you some industry metrics, but I'll just show you home and commercial services is one of the industries we look at. So for example, and what you can see that high level benchmark data from, what was the average applicants per job, the average days to contact, best times to hire. You can see that applicant source data broken down by your industry. So here for, home and commercial services, we can see job boards actually brought in 78% of all the applications there, but still converting at that 1% rate. So continuing on, there's some more key metrics as far as, time to contact and how does that match up in your industry versus the industries overall. And lastly, what you're going to see on that breakdown is some key takeaways, for your specific industry. So home and commercial services, that first one on there has 6%, the lowest interview to hire conversion rate. It's only 6%. So that is kind of telling us maybe we need to be a little more selective about applicants we're actually inviting to interviews. We're not seeing good quality applicants come in at the interview stage and giving some recommendations based on that. So you're going to see that for all your industry. I really think it's helpful to look at that because you're going to get that benchmark. But remember, we don't want to just meet the average there. You want to stand out above your competition. So, if your average, days to contact, let's look at this here, that time to contact, 5.9 days. That is how long is an applicant waiting until they hear from a company. So I think 5.9 days is too long, right? Especially in a fierce market, we want to be following up quickly. So if that's the industry average, what can you do as a business? Can you follow up in 2 days, in 1 day even? And when you start to break this down, we look at like the top 1% of performers across industries. That's what the metric looks like, is people are contacting within 1 day or less. They're not leaving applicants waiting. So you'll have all that. We'll send that out in the follow-up. But let me transition here. We've gone over the data. Let's ground this for you, for your business, and talk about how to actually improve your hiring. What have we learned from the last year, learned from this huge pile of data that we can actually implement going forward? And 4 kind of main categories I want to talk you through. One is really building your employer brand and showcasing it on your careers page. So we just saw for applicant sources that company careers pages are a hugely successful source of hires, right? 4 times more likely to be hired an applicant coming from a careers page than from a job board. But it's a pretty untapped source of applicants overall. And we know candidates who take the time to research a company tend to be high quality candidates. They're more selective, right, about where they choose to apply. So investing in creating and engaging an attractive careers page, showcasing your testimonials, aspects of your culture, your core values can go a long way. So a couple things I like to recommend that you would include on your careers page if you haven't already is, sharing your mission, your vision, your values, your culture. Even if this is other places, maybe on your main company website, make sure this is in your careers page itself. Talk about your people philosophy. What is it really like to work for you? Give people a little insight into what you value and how you'll value them. Include real company photos. This might seem like an obvious one, but people really like that, social proof. They like to imagine what it's like to work for you, be interacting in your business. It can, just provide some context for them. Same thing with having employee testimonials on your careers page. So again, with the social proof, can you ask your top performers? Can you ask your more tenured employees to say, what do they really like working there? What's their favorite part of the job? How do they feel connected to your mission? And showcase that on your careers page. And then just a few ideas on how you can really use your careers page, because you can build that all out, but if you're not getting in front of people, it's not going to help you get more applicants. So I include my careers page link for CareerPlug on my email signature, on business cards. That's an option. Sharing it on your social media, make sure it's linked in different places where you're already interacting with your community, with your customers. Creating a QR code on a flyer or a sign so people can easily, scan that code and get to your careers page. If you have a, brick and mortar business, they can walk in and scan that and see all of your open positions really easily. And then lastly, having it in the applicant confirmation email. So this is something you can do in the app. So anytime someone applies to your job, there's an automated email that goes out that says, thank you for applying, right? We'll follow up soon. You can actually edit that email. If you're an admin on your account, you can do that in your settings and general messages. And I've edited my email. So when people apply to CareerPlug, they get that thank you and they say, hey, in the meantime, why don't you learn more about us by checking out our careers page? So if they hadn't been there already, they're directed to really engage more with our employer brand, right? They're less likely to forget about us if they're applying to lots of companies. I also direct them to an employee review site that we have so they can read testimonials. So I'm giving them some follow-up information there. All right, so utilize your careers page if you are not already. That's my first takeaway. Next is create better job postings to really stand apart from your competitors. So last year, we really frequently heard from employers who are concerned about the declining number of applicants to their jobs. You may have been some of them, but we really saw the data from job postings receive just as many views per job as in 2020. So 2020, 2021, same amount of views per that job posting. However, it's just the number of applicants were cut in half, which really tells us that job seekers are seeing your posting. They're just faced with more options than ever, and they're only applying to opportunities that appeal to them the most. So one reason why I work on that employer branding, but you have to have that in the job posting itself. So writing really enticing job descriptions so they're compelled to apply to your business over your competitors. Things like, practicing pay transparency, offering benefits, advertising the job, all can go a long way here. A couple of tips that I have. This is my kind of like basics of a job description. I would say you should always be answering these 4 main questions in your posting. Why does this job actually matter? What is the impact of the job? Can you tie it back to your mission, to how you're serving customers? A lot of that is, making people see that that job is valued, right? And empowered in your workplace, and that by extension, they're going to be valued and empowered as an employee. Of course, what does this job do? That's the actual responsibilities you can go through. How is someone going to know they're qualified for the role? That's your, qualifications, your requirements, certification, years of experience that you're looking for. And then of course, what is in it for them? What are those benefits and perks? So let me give you a little gravy on top of that of some other things you can think about when you're crafting job postings that really stand apart. One, including your COVID-19 response, right? This is something I've been saying since the pandemic started, so for a couple of years now, but especially if you have, customer facing, interacting with the public roles, it's really important to talk about how you're have kept employees and your customers safe. It just goes that little extra mile, like, okay, like here's some transparency up front in how we are really treating and valuing the safety of our workforce. The next thing is talking about your values and your culture. So of course, you're going to do this on your careers page. We talked about it there, but put that a little in your job description too. Maybe leading with who you are and leading with your values before you get into the nitty-gritty of the role, like putting that up front. So people remember your culture, are going to resonate with that particular workplace that you have, right? Not every person is going to be right for every business, but the people who are right for you, who do share your values, that's going to really stand out to them. And then I mentioned this already, but including compensation, that pay transparency up front, really important in today's market. Job seekers want more information up front in general, including about pay. We had a separate survey we did about candidate experience, and saw 39% of job seekers expected to be informed about compensation in the initial job post. That's going up more and more. Indeed actually recently did their own survey, and it was over 80% wanted to see that up front. So it actually helps you with job board visibility, like in the algorithms, if you're putting comp there too. So highly recommend that. Another thing you can sprinkle into your job postings that helps you stand apart is talking about the future a little bit, adding some vision to the job postings. How are you training and developing your employees? Is there growth potential there for them? Setting it out as less of just a transaction and more like this is a compact that we're making together. And kind of along with that, presenting them with a challenge, especially if you're really looking for those motivated top performers. They're often motivated by a challenge. They want to help you solve problems. So talking about that problem you want them to solve and that you need their help can make a big impact on the right people. And lastly, with job postings, let them know what happens next. This is closing the deal, right? Ask people to actually apply in your job posting and let them know what's going to happen if they do. Like if you're conducting interviews that next week, share that with people. People want to feel like this is a real opportunity and a priority for you. One thing I do at CareerPlug is on our own careers page. I provide a short video that just previews our hiring process to let them know, hey, here's the next step. Here's what to expect about communication. Every candidate has had this experience of applying and just the application disappears into a black hole. So this is really kind of a trust building thing with job seekers up front of, hey, this is real. We're going to follow up. Go ahead and apply. And put yourself in the shoes of a job seeker. So this is, what would you find if you researched your company online? Would you want to apply for that job? Ask your current, employees, ask a friend or a family member to review the job posting and give you their impression of it, right? Get some outside perspective to continue to improve it. I have some last tips and tricks here, right? We could talk about job postings all day. Hopefully I'm giving you a couple nuggets to take away with, but things on job titles, I would, research your job title at other job boards, see what other jobs show up. You can get some ideas that way. Make sure you're making your posting really easy to navigate, not just one big block of text, but use bullets, use sections and headers. Over 70% of people are applying for jobs on their phone. So you know how difficult it can be to read huge blocks of text in your phone. So making it as readable as possible. Like I said, email it to yourself and review it on your phone so you can see that. Does it ask yourself about the posting. Does it help the candidate understand what you need them to do and why it's important? That's where it's another good, validate with that friend and family, validate with your current team, and ask for their feedback. Is it really conveying what you want it to? All right, my number 3 takeaway here is create a job marketing strategy that doesn't rely on job boards, that doesn't solely rely on those job boards. We talked about that a little bit when we we're going through the data. Again, job boards, important piece of the pie. We got to fill out that pie with a multitude of sources. And what I want to talk to you about now is custom sources. So careers page is one of them. Referrals, certainly really important, having a referral program. But let's talk about these custom sources, because these are where you share out to a source that's not those organic job feeds. That's beyond where we're automatically sharing your jobs, like Indeed, Zip, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, etc. So reminder, these are 22% more likely to be hired, an applicant who applies from a custom source than coming in from those job board sources. So you can think about custom sources as, industry job boards, local job boards, university job boards, social media, Craigslist, right? Anywhere that you're kind of going to manually post your job or going through their own process. These are just some logos here. So for example, My CNA Jobs is an industry specific job board, and one of our partners, you can post jobs. Door County, that is the county I live in. So we have a local community job board, and there's a place to post jobs. So I could be seeing a different pool of job seekers there. That logo at the bottom, ADJ, is an example of a Facebook group. So that is a Austin Facebook community of people who are looking for jobs, and kind of employers can post and job seekers can view them there. I've had a lot of success with Facebook groups, and a lot of our clients have as well. Anytime you go to Facebook, you can search, your city name and jobs, and you'll see a lot of groups that are for that. They're for employers and job seekers to connect. You're often, if you're posting your jobs in those groups, getting a more targeted audience. You don't have to fight to the top in the same way that you might on the job boards. So overall, you're probably getting less quantity through these sources, but like that data shows, right, 22% of people actually converting to hires there, the quality is much higher, right? So it is worth taking some energy to research these custom sources and make them part of your recruiting strategy. If you're asking what custom sources you should use, this is going to look different for all of you, right? Every community or industry that you're in is going to have a different options here. I would suggest you look at where your hires have come from in the past, right? Have you posted on Craigslist before and had success? Like, don't stop posting there. Continue to use it as a source. Searching for local job boards or groups, even just Googling search of your town and jobs can uncover a lot. What colleges or universities are in your area. Many have their own job board or alumni groups, other ways for you to connect with local job seekers, and then industry specific job boards. So I mentioned My CNA Jobs, insurance jobs is one. I use some specific ones because we hire software engineers that really cater to that particular audience and have had success there. Now, last takeaway I want to share with you from our recruiting metrics report, and that is just communicating with candidates faster, right? I teased this earlier. There's a few strategies you can take here, right? One is just making a habit in your day to review applicants as they come in and making sure you're following up quickly. If you're using pre-screen questions, which are those application questions to try to surface the most important things for people, is it's a certification they have, or maybe it's a shift availability. Like, what can you ask up front so you can make quicker decisions and follow up quickly with people? One I want to highlight for us here, though, is really utilizing texting in your hiring process. We've had some encouraging data there. Texting is a quick way to follow up and tends to get faster responses to move things forward. So you'll see texts are opened 4.9 times more than email. They receive 7.5 times more responses, responded to 60 times faster than email. 90% of texts are read within 3 minutes of being sent. So definitely a faster way to communicate. For a lot of you, people on the ground, hourly workforce, this tends to be the primary way people are communicating. So utilizing that in your account. If you don't have texting currently in your account, you can find out more about that. I'll send out a resource for you there, but many of you already have texting included. So you can do that directly through CareerPlug or even send texts and emails at the same time. All right, I have covered a whole lot in the half hour here. So my goal was to give you a lot of resources and information. Like I said, I'm going to share out the report, the recording, some extra follow-up resources from things I mentioned. You don't have to do everything that I said today, but I hope there's been some nuggets of value in here for you. I'm really big on, action and concrete takeaways that you can take back into your hiring process. We're gonna have a little time for questions here. Just a couple other things I want to point out that are always available to you. One is our blog. This is just on our main website, careerplug.com. It's that resources tab at the top. This is where we publish our research reports like this one. You'll find this on there, as well as other best practices articles, things on recruiting strategy. We recently did another report on compensation expectations for hourly workers and had some really great takeaways there. So keep an eye out for that. We often share these blogs in our newsletters, so you might see them that way as well. And then, of course, I'm not actually in the CareerPlug system today, but any product related questions you have, you can visit our help center for more product knowledge. So if you want to learn more about how to track custom sources in your account, how does that actually work to share them out, that's where you can find that info. And I'll make sure I send a follow-up link in that whatever follow-up email we send out later this afternoon. All right. So I'm going to pop over and see if we have any questions coming through. I know Nolan has been answering some for me on the back end. I see one here from Jennifer. Most of our applicants have opted out of texting. Is there a way to encourage that applicants allow this? That is a great question and one I've gotten before. So the first thing that comes to mind is even saying something in your job description itself. I've found that people who do opt out of texting for a variety of reasons, right? But maybe they're worried you're going to spam them with anything, which is not what it is, right? We're not sending them any extra text. It's just from you or having an interview reminder. But you could get in front of that, right? Over communicate like, hey, when you apply, we're going to, text you about interview reminders. We're not going to spam you. So you could do a little bit of that up front. I know we're thinking kind of on the back end, how can we be more inviting and encourage that option a little more too, but that's one potential workaround for that, Jennifer. I see some other questions that have already been answered. Let's see. Nolan, you've been answering some questions for me. Is there anything that you think bears repeating or anything I missed?
I did have someone asking about if you know of any like custom job boards for bilingual applicants.
What a great question. To be honest, I'd have to do a little research on that. I'm sure they are out there. So without, going to Google now, I would Google that, bilingual job boards or, Spanish speaking job boards and see what comes up. I actually think Facebook groups might be a good one to look into for that. I don't know that for sure. I haven't researched it myself, but those Facebook groups are often these like niche, more focused communities and often revolve around careers and jobs. So that might be something to search as well. All right. Oh, Jillian asked, did you say there is an app we can use? So when I say app, I mean the application. So we don't have like an app that you would download from the App Store. CareerPlug is mobile optimized and mobile friendly. So you can like log in on your phone and everything will be mobile optimized that way. I often say app just as short for application, which I call it on the desktop as well. Angela asked, if we need help setting this up, what should we do? Should we call into CareerPlug? So first I would say there's definitely stuff in the help center. So if you wanted help setting up, custom sources and stuff, I'm going to give you an article for that, because I know that might not be, the first thing you're thinking about, like, how do I share to all these custom sources in your account? But also on this Help Center page, you'll see that contacting CareerPlug support. You can always call our team of hiring experts or send them an email. They know all the stuff I'm talking about, and they really know the system inside and out, and can consult more on your individual circumstances and your account if you need some best practice advice there. All right. I see some interest in an app too. I'm noting that, Dana. So that is something that our product team is aware of, and I'll kind of note your interest there too. I think some people would be interested in that in the future.
We have one more on general messages. It says the third message from the top under templates is applicant. Oh, no. So the applicant, let's see, applicant pipeline. It should be above applicant pipeline, actually.
Yeah. So Carla, this is, we're talking about if you want to add a link to your careers page in that applicant confirmation email. The applicant move to pipeline is a separate email in general messages. Let me actually, if y'all want to go on a little demo with me, I think I can show you where it is in my own CareerPlug account, because I do think this is like a little known thing that you can edit that I find very valuable. So I'm going to my settings, and I'm going to go to templates, and this is general messages at the top here. So let me scroll down. So there's a category here called applicant confirmation, and this is where you can edit that. So I have this one's toggled on, default applicant confirmation. I'm going to open that up, and you can see this is how I've changed my default message. So I'm saying, thank you, our team will review. In the meantime, I have this check out our video of our hiring process. You can also read about our remote first vision. So I have some other things. This is where you can put your careers page in here or add other links in. But again, it is, if you're in your settings, templates, and general messages. So if you're an admin, you can go ahead and access this, but it's that applicant confirmation that you can do. All right. Okay, anything else that I missed, Nolan?
I see Carla saying she didn't have that section of her account. I would say if you're not seeing a section of your account, it's probably an access issue, and probably reach out to your administrator. Is that right, Natalie? Yeah.
So feel free, Carla, to reach out to our hiring expert team. They can troubleshoot and look into your circumstances there. If you have an account admin, if you're not the account admin, I would ask them first. But if you are and you're not seeing something, go ahead and talk to our hiring expert team, and they'll help figure it out. Awesome. All right, lots of good questions, everyone. I hope this was valuable for y'all. Look out for a follow-up from us, and I'll go ahead and let you go. Happy hiring, everyone.